Hi, I'm Linda. I'm glad to have you back. I just finished up a willow tree, one of my favorite trees. I painted one like this 2 years ago, but I wasn't videotaping myself. So I thought, well, it's time I'm going to do one so that you all can see how I made the stringers and what kind of brushes I used. It's beautiful sunlight in the back, simple background, with a little pond and some grassy areas with the shadows coming off of the tree. You can have fun with this one. So get your paints out, pause and paint with me. So let's get started. So here are the oil paints I used. Liquid white, titanium white, phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, sap green, yellow ochre, cad yellow, and red. And so now I'm taking my canvas, dry canvas, and I'm putting on liquid white. And I'm going to go just a little bit below the halfway mark. And just put a thin coat all over. And then I'm taking a shop towel and I'm just going to gently take off the excess oil. So now I'm going into yellow, cad yellow, with a touch of white. I'm going to make a really pale, some sunlight, a little bit above halfway mark there. Just gently back and forth, going across, just creating some sunlight. And of course in the middle it's going to be a little bit brighter. And at the horizon line, it's about halfway, a little bit below, but that's about all I'm going to do for that. So now I'm going into just a little bit of phthalo blue, a touch of black and white. I want to make it almost a gray blue or a country blue. I'm just going to load up. I've got a nice big fan brush. It's a number 12 actually. It's a nice brush. And so I'm just going below the halfway mark. I'm putting in where the water line's going to be, where the pond starts. And I'm just going upward motions, straight up. Just going to create a make-believe background with trees in the back. You don't have to be that fussy because it's really not going to show, but there will be some figures back there, and it's like a row of trees, and I'm just going just below that, just blending as I go, and I'm going to stop right around the middle, right in the center. Stop right there. There's going to be an opening at the middle there. But I'm just going up, kind of filling in a little bit, not real solid. I'm going to leave some white in there, pushing upward with my fan brush and going on the other side, doing pretty much the same thing. A little heavier at the bottom there, and just lifting up, creating some trees way in the back in the distance. Just blending up. And then tapping there at the baseline, leaving a little yellow below, because that side is a little bit different. It's a little higher, slightly higher, so I want a little bit of that yellow below that shoreline. And the left side is a little heavier because there's going to be lots of trees, or one big tree there. But I am tapping downward and brushing across. And I just flicked a few little light with the same brush, a little light blue up at the very, very top. So I'm going to take a shop towel. I'm just going to blend that in, because there is some liquid white up there. So Just gonna kind of blend that in a little bit, so there is a little bit of a blue sky. And so with the blue, same color, putting a few heavier looking trees at the bottom part of that. Just tapping, vertical tapping. And then pulling upward, just to give it some variation. And then on the right there, I'm going down below a little bit with some of that same blue, going across. And on the other side, it's creating where the shoreline is going to be. Going into a little bit of the yellow and a touch of sapper green. I call it lime yellow. And I'm going to create at the top, it's going to be in vertical, just tapping. We're part of one of the willows. There's a willow on the far left, but I'm just tapping in some of those willow leaves. Not real solid, leave a few white areas in there. And then I'm going to tap in a few bushes on the left side. And with my yellow and a little bit of white. On that same brush. And pulling down some of that sunlight, just a little bit. I had some yellow there, but I want a little more. So I'm going to pull a little bit yellow down into the water, where the water's going to be, and tapping along the shoreline. And same with the other side, just kind of pushing up along the shoreline and pulling down just a little bit. And taking a palette knife with a roll of white and just gently putting in a little water line just below the darkest area there where the shore is. I wanted to find where that water line is along the shore. And same with the other side. Just below the blue and just above the yellow. Just smoothing that out. And with some more blue, some of that gray blue, I'm pulling down some of the tree shadows. Pulling a little bit of that down into the water. And a little bit of the shadows on the other side too. Now you can go in there and add some liquid white in that area if it's kind of rough. That'll help the paint flow a little bit better. Just bringing down some shadows. And a little bit on that little, the end of that little inlet there. Just a little bit. And I softened it up, put a little white on there. Okay, now I'm going into some of that lime green color. It's sap green and yellow, the touch of white, making a bunch there. I'm going to start bringing down some of the willow stringers, and I'm just going to pull down with my brushes vertical, just kind of pull down. I'm adding a little darker sap green in there in places, just in places. That side's going to be quite dark. That's the shadow side. So I want to make sure I have that area with darker stringers. I'm going into a little bit of yellow and white and just bring those straight down, probably to the top part of the shoreline. And I'm going to start filling in the top, the very top, sporadic stringers that's going to be there. I'm going to put this color down first, and then I'm going to gradually add in some darker greens, and then I'll top off some of the leaves with some bright yellow. The right side is going to be a lot lighter, but I am going to put some darker greens up there, just a little bit of that lime green, because once I put the yellow highlights on top, you'll be able to see those stringers a lot better. I'm not being real fussy, but I'm leaving some of that sunlight, or the open areas in there. I don't want to cover that center up there. I want that sunlight to be right in the middle. So there I'm adding some darker sap green, touch of yellow. So I don't want it real dark, but it's going to be the shadow side. Okay, so now I'm going to put some land, and I'm using it's a little bit of that sap green color, more of olive green. So it's sap green and yellow, but just a touch of yellow, because I want it a little darker green. And just create my land line right underneath those shadows. So now I'm going into a little bit of the sap green with a touch of phthalo blue. I want it kind of a blue-green right in the middle there. Just going back and forth, making that dark blue-green there. Going right down center and working my way off to the side on the bottom. I'm just using a little filbert. It's not a real big brush, but I want that pretty dark down there. Kind of angle up a little bit. I'm going into the light green, same sap green with a little bit of yellow, and fill in that white area there on the left, and just kind of blend it in. Yeah, just leave that light area there. That's going to be grass, so that we're going to be highlighting that after a bit. I want the other side to pretty much match, but I'm pulling in some of that darker color from the center outward to the end of the edge of the canvas, so it blends nicely. Just working my way up. I don't want to go all the way to the shoreline, because I want it to be lighter there, and then gradually gets darker to the bottom of the canvas. Okay, now I put in a couple of willow trees, one on the left, that's one single, and the other one is just off center a little bit. Got a pretty nice sized trunk leaning, and I got some arms coming out. You can make it any way you want. It's just a big old willow, and it's got lots of arms that reach out, and they're almost to the top of the canvas, so you really can't lose there. They're just big old trees, pretty good sized trunk. And you can shape it any way you want. But it's a Van Dyke brown with a touch of black, very dark. So I'll be highlighting those trees too. But I'm making those branches come all the way, reach out. And so now I'm adding some stringers, and I started out with a small round filbert. And I found that really tedious, time consuming. So I ended up using one of my favorite fan brushes. It's a number 4. Kind of a gnarly one. It's an older one, but boy oh boy does that work nice making these stringers. And I just brushed it in some sap green, touch of that phthalo blue, but I want it really dark. That left side is quite dark. But I'm leaving some of the open areas there. I'm just tapping. It's vertical. I'm just keeping my brush fairly straight, tapping downward, using the corner of my brush, and it really makes a good stringers for willows. It's not as time consuming as one by one, painting single leaves, but I will go back after I'm got these in, and I'll define them a little better with my script brush. So I'm keeping this left side rather dark, but I'm leaving some open areas there, just filling in. And I will eventually, I'll dip into a little lighter green, sap green. As I move to the right of the canvas, it's going to be a lot brighter on the right side. So, but for now, I'm just excuse me, sticking with that medium to light sap green there, loading the brush up pretty well, and just tapping downward lightly. And it makes some nice little squiggly lines in there. A little brighter as I get to the right. Putting a few darker ones in, but now there in the middle, that's a real bright area, so I'm keeping the green a really light green. Just tapping. And if you run out of paint, then just add a little bit of thinner to your brush, and then go back into your paint, and it should stick really nice. Working my way over. Just gently tapping. And the farther I get to the right, the lighter it's going to be. until I get way to the right. Then I'll use a little bit of a lighter, little bit of green in there so you can see it against that yellow. You can see the stringers really good. Even adding a little bit of white to that yellow, just to give it a little shine, I guess. Okay, so now I'm back into the phthalo blue and a little bit of the green, sap green, and I'm going to start putting in more grasses and shadows there in next to that willow. And I'm just taking my fan brush and pushing downward, kind of scratching downward. And boy, that makes really nice, nice grass. Just putting some shadows in there, here and there. And the bottom is quite dark. Going in with a little bit of yellow here and there, just putting some light, sunlight areas on the shoreline. Just tapping that in. Make your grasses however you want, whatever works the best. Sometimes you can tap and then brush across, lift up. There's many ways of creating grasses. I like this technique. Working my way downward, but you can always put light areas in there next to that shoreline. Now I'm pushing kind of upward. And if you think you put too much, add a little dark right underneath. Okay, I've created a shadow on the tree side there toward the bottom, and then lifting up and putting some tall grasses on the edges. Kind of angling them over. Just filling that area in, adding some more light to your grasses. So now I'm putting some sunlight on the edge of the willow trunk, wherever you think there's sunlight hitting. With a script liner brush, I'm just dipping in some yellow and white, just highlighting the trunk and wherever I think the light is going to hit. I'm just putting a little bit of the yellow ochre with a touch of brown on the trunk. Still adding highlights along the outside of that tree. There's so much you can do with this, you know, to bring it to life. It looks so pretty. I almost see a finished painting here. I love doing this one. I just love doing the willow tree. And I hope you do too. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.